Global warming, a global warning. Hi everyone, I'm Hari Priya and you are watching CNBC News. Today I have scientists with me working at the Indian scientific base at Antarctica, and we are going to talk about the global climate change and how Antarctica reflects this and break the matter down to its fundamentals. Before we proceed with the discussion, I would like to introduce the panelists to the audience. To start with, we have Dr. Irshad Ahmed working with TNC. Next, we have Dr. Zoya Sheikh, a professor of geology at Presidency College. We also have Dr. K. Shaman, an ecology expert who will be sharing his views on the topic. Finally, we have a special guest, Hariharan, a final year science student who will be talking about his experience of having traveled Antarctica and having witnessed nature at its best. So let us begin with the interview. Dr. Zoya, I'd like you to start off by briefing us on the geology and topographics of Antarctica.
Okay, so the geological study of Antarctica has been greatly hindered by the fact that nearly all the continent is continuously covered with the thick layer of ice. Geologically speaking, West Antarctica closely resembles the ends of South America. The Antarctic Peninsula was formed by uplift and metamorphism of seabed sediments during the late Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras. This sediment uplift was accompanied by igneous intrusions and volcanism. There is also evidence of volcanic activity. East Antarctica is geologically very old, dating from Precambrian, with some rocks formed more than 3 billion years ago. It is mainly composed of metamorphic and igneous platforms, which is the basis of continental shields. As a whole, the geology of Antarctica is directly linked to icebergs.
Doctor, how do these icebergs affect the oceans?
Antarctica's calving size distribution affects icebergs' trajectories and melt patterns. An increase in the number of these icebergs will increase westward iceberg freshwater into Antarctic current, adversely affecting the ecology.
So, my next question is for Dr. Irshad. How, according to you, do these climate changes affect the environment and ecosystem?
So climate change can cause various effects on ecosystem, including making them more vulnerable to climate change itself. Some of the potential effects of climate change include changes in precipitation patterns, temperature patterns, frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, the timing of seasons, the distribution of plant and animals. All of these changes can disrupt the functioning of ecosystem and potentially lead to extinction of some plants and animal species.
So, Doctor, given the fact that you are a prominent member of TNC, could you tell us what TNC is doing about this climate change?
Yeah, so as you all might already know, TNC, the Nature Conservancy is a global environmental organization that aims to tackle climate change, and it plans to do so in many ways. Firstly, TNC plans to reduce 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by protecting the natural habitats of plants that absorb and store carbon, and carefully managing farmlands and forests. TNC is working with the governments to advance policies that grow clean energy and boost energy efficiency. TNC wants to grow food that better partner with nature, which can greatly reduce carbon emissions. For instance, healthy soils have enormous potential to store carbon.
Thank you, Dr. Irshad. Dr. Shaman, Dr. Irshad just mentioned that how TNC is trying to reduce carbon emissions. Could you tell us how these emissions are harming Antarctica?
So basically, due to the rapid modernization and industrialization of the world, carbon and greenhouse gas emission has become almost inevitable. Carbon dioxide is actually one of the most notorious planet warming gases. It is abundant in the atmosphere, giving it a much stronger overall warming effect. Besides warming, these gases also tend to create holes in the ozone, causing harmful UV rays to directly strike the Earth's surface. Considering the ice core records that our team recently recovered show that these greenhouse gases continue to accumulate in the atmosphere, and it is likely that even the interior of the continents will eventually show signs of warming. This warming will eventually result in the excessive melting of snow and ice, and global rise in water levels. Water is currently being discharged into oceans through iceberg melting at alarming rates. If this goes on, land will start flooding and the water bodies will ever persistently keep growing.
So, directly or indirectly, these climatic and atmospheric changes are affecting the ecosystem and food webs, right?
Oh, well, yes, climate changes do indeed adversely affect ecosystems and food webs. As the climate changes, it will influence the distribution, extent, and composition of ecosystems, and hence affect the spectrum of services and economic value they provide. Rapid changes to ecosystems may cause the displacement or even the loss of many species. The primary cause for rapid change in the ecosystem of Antarctica is the melting of ice and glaciers. For example, the krill are very important to the Antarctic food web, and their decline could threaten whales, seals, and penguins, all of which feed on krill. The decline of krill has been linked to a dramatic decline in sea ice. Sea ice is a vital feeding ground for the huge number of krill in the Antarctic Ocean. There are various other examples of disruptions in the ecosystems and food changes due to climatic change.
So now I'd like to shift our focus to Dr. Irshad. Dr. Irshad, would you describe this whole scenario as a simple climate change, global warming, or a global climatic crisis?
Although people tend to use these terms interchangeably, global warming is just one aspect of climate change. Global warming refers to the rise in global temperature, mainly due to increasing concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, whereas climate change refers to the increasing change in measures of climate over a long period of time, including precipitation, temperature, and wind patterns.
So, how much time do we actually have to stop this climate change and get things in order?
The best science we have tells us that to avoid the worst impacts of global warming, we must globally achieve net zero carbon emissions no later than 2050. To do this, world must immediately identify pathways to reduce carbon emissions from all sectors: transportation, electricity, and industry. This cannot be achieved without a major shift to renewable energy.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Zoya, people often don't understand how renewable energy is related to geology. Could you tell us how renewable energy and geology are interconnected?
Yeah. So the setting of renewable energy projects from hydroelectric power or storage to wind farms, both onshore and offshore, is based fundamentally on conditions created by geology. For example, geothermal power is a form of renewable energy created by powering electrical generators with the heat of the earth.
Alright, thank you, Dr. Zoya. I'm sure that our viewers are eagerly waiting for Hariharan to speak. So, Hariharan, how was your experience traveling Antarctica?
Firstly, thank you for presenting me with this opportunity to share my views and experiences about Antarctica. Antarctica, as you know, the giant continent at the bottom of the earth that's ruled by penguins and seals. My experience was really a magnificent one. The big icebergs floating around you, and the gleam of sunshine in the vast iceland and beautiful springs with clear water gushing down the hills. As you so accurately mentioned earlier, no one can feel the nature at its best there. A person can only understand the need to save a planet once they look at the Antarctica's scenic beauty and realize how vital it is to preserve this boon to us from God.
So, Hariharan, since you have witnessed the situation so closely, how do you think humans are causing this climate change?
Frankly, there are innumerable ways in humans are causing climate change. Burning fossil fuels, cutting down trees, farming livestock, and generating power are just some of the human activities that see climate change that need to be put to an end forthwith.
So, do you think this climate change is threatening our future planet?
Yes, definitely. Climate change is something that merits immediate attention. It is a grave and mounting threat to our well being. Our actions today will shape man's future on Earth.
Alright, Hariharan, thank you for your insightful comments and thoughts. I'd like to sum this interview up by repeating Einstein's words verbatim. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. as this change is what is going to pioneer man's well being. I greatly appreciate and thank all our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules to help us get a better understanding of global climate change. Thank you, viewers, for watching.